I have never made a point. I've always made a point of being particularly working class.
At 93 years old, Michael Caine has lived through one of the most remarkable careers in Hollywood history. From legendary actors to unforgettable figures who shaped his journey, these were the people he held closest to his heart. But why did these 6 people stand out above everyone else? And what did Michael Caine reveal about the friendships behind the famous names? Join us as we uncover the 6 people Michael Caine loved most and the personal stories behind these unforgettable relationships. Sean Connery. Long before Michael Caine ever called Sean Connery a friend, he admired him from a distance. They came from similar backgrounds. Both were working-class British men who dreamed of building successful acting careers at a time when Hollywood was largely dominated by American stars. For young British actors, breaking into the film industry was never easy. There were fewer opportunities, and international success often seemed out of reach. That was why Connery's rise meant so much. When he became the first actor to play James Bond on the big screen in Dr. No in 1962, he didn't just become famous overnight. He became proof that a British actor could become one of the biggest stars in the world. Michael Caine has often said that actors of his generation couldn't help but notice what Connery had accomplished. He had pushed through barriers that many others hoped to overcome one day themselves. To Caine, Connery wasn't simply another successful actor. He represented possibility. His achievements made Hollywood seem a little less distant for other British performers. Seeing Connery succeed gave confidence to many actors who followed, including Caine himself. Although each man's career developed differently, Caine always respected the path Connery had carved out before many others had the chance. As the years passed and both men became established stars, they naturally crossed paths at premieres, award ceremonies, charity events, and industry gatherings. Over time, those brief meetings turned into genuine friendship. It didn't happen because they worked together constantly or because they shared the same agents. Like many lasting friendships, it developed through small conversations that continued year after year. One thing Caine always appreciated was that their talks almost never focused on acting. After spending months making films and answering interview questions, neither of them felt the need to discuss work all evening. Instead, they talked about ordinary life. Family came up often. So did football. Being English, Caine naturally supported England, while Connery proudly stood behind Scotland. They could joke about their friendly rivalry without taking it seriously. They also spoke about travel, getting older, and the many places their careers had taken them around the world. These conversations became some of Caine's favorite memories. Even when photographers stood nearby hoping to capture famous faces together, the two men often forgot about the attention. They simply enjoyed catching up like old friends. For Caine, those quiet moments mattered far more than glamorous parties or public appearances. They reminded him that behind every famous face was a normal person with everyday interests and concerns. Many people expected Sean Connery to behave like James Bond. His screen image was powerful, confident, and sometimes intimidating. Fans often imagined he would always be serious and dramatic. According to Caine, that wasn't the man he knew. Off-camera, Connery had a great sense of humor. He enjoyed making people laugh and often said something unexpected that lightened the mood. Rather than trying to appear mysterious or important, he preferred simple conversations and relaxed company. Caine admired this because Connery never seemed interested in living up to other people's expectations. He didn't feel the need to constantly remind everyone of who he was or what he had achieved. His fame spoke for itself, and he seemed perfectly comfortable leaving it at that. Caine often said that real character shows itself over time. Anyone can appear pleasant during a short meeting, but lasting friendships reveal who someone truly is. Over many years, Connery never gave Caine any reason to think he had changed because of fame or success. Perhaps that is why their friendship meant so much. It wasn't built on business or publicity. It was built on mutual respect, shared experiences, and simple conversations that never needed an audience. When Sean Connery died in October 2020 at the age of 90, Michael Caine felt the loss deeply. Losing an old friend later in life carries a different kind of sadness. By that stage, every friendship represents decades of memories, shared moments, and chapters of your own life. But if Sean Connery earned Caine's respect through quiet confidence, the next friend won his heart in a completely different way. Roger Moore. When Michael Caine thought about the people he loved most in the film industry, Roger Moore was always near the top of the list. They were very different men in many ways, yet those differences helped create a friendship that lasted for decades. Caine has often suggested that people do not always become close because they are alike. Sometimes opposite personalities balance each other, and that was certainly true in his friendship with Roger Moore. Caine was known for his straightforward style and calm way of speaking. Roger Moore, on the other hand, had a natural charm that seemed to make every conversation feel easy. He could make strangers feel comfortable within minutes, and he carried that quality wherever he went. It was never something that looked forced. It simply came naturally to him. That effortless warmth was one of the first things Caine noticed. Roger did not try to be the center of attention. He did not need to dominate every conversation. Instead, he had a way of making the people around him feel relaxed. And that was one of the reasons so many people enjoyed being in his company. To millions of fans around the world, Roger Moore will always be remembered as James Bond. Between 1973 and 1985, he played Britain's famous secret agent in 7 Bond films, making him one of the longest-serving actors to take on the role. His version of Bond was stylish, confident, witty, and always in control. But Michael Caine saw a completely different side of him. Away from the cameras, Moore was warm, funny, and easy to approach. Despite being one of the biggest stars in the world, he never carried himself like someone who believed he was more important than everyone else. Fame had not changed the way he treated people. Many celebrities become surrounded by barriers as their careers grow. They keep their distance or let others speak for them. Roger Moore did the opposite. He remained open and friendly throughout his career, no matter how famous he became. One of the qualities Caine admired most was the way Moore treated everyone with equal respect. It did not matter whether someone was directing the film, applying makeup, serving food, carrying equipment, or delivering coffee to the set. Roger greeted people warmly and made them feel seen. He remembered names, asked people how they were doing, and took time to have real conversations. These small actions may not have made headlines, but they meant a great deal to the people who worked with him every day. Film sets can be stressful places. Long hours, changing schedules, technical problems, and pressure to finish scenes often leave people feeling exhausted. Caine remembered that Roger seemed to know exactly when the mood was becoming too serious. Instead of complaining, Roger would often tell a funny story or make a joke that eased the tension. Before long, people would be smiling again. He had a gift for lifting the atmosphere without making a big effort. It was simply part of who he was. Caine believed that this ability could not be taught. It was part of Roger's character. His kindness made people work better together because he created an environment where everyone felt comfortable. As both men spent more years in the film industry, their friendship became less about movies and more about life itself. They had already answered countless interview questions about acting. They had spoken about films in newspapers, on television, and at press events for decades. When they met privately, they rarely wanted to discuss their careers. Instead, they talked about their families, children, travel, growing older, and the everyday experiences that everyone shares regardless of fame. Those conversations were far more meaningful than discussing box office numbers or award ceremonies. Caine often said that true friendships are built after the interview's end. Public appearances may introduce people, but lasting friendships grow through private conversations over many years. Their friendship continued through different stages of life. They watched each other's careers rise, celebrated successes together, and supported one another as they grew older. Their relationship remained steady because it was based on genuine affection rather than professional benefit. During Roger Moore's later years, Caine admired him even more. Moore was diagnosed with cancer and faced serious health challenges, but he refused to let illness define him. Those who knew him often spoke about how he continued to smile and make jokes, even while receiving treatment. The next person on Caine's list earned his admiration in a completely different way, through discipline, humility, and an unforgettable example on set. Laurence Olivier. For Michael Caine, meeting Laurence Olivier was one of those moments that could make any young actor nervous. Before they ever worked together, Olivier was already considered one of the greatest actors Britain had ever produced. His name carried enormous respect, and his career had reached a level most performers could only dream of. Olivier was famous for his performances on stage and screen, especially his work with Shakespeare. He had earned awards, worldwide recognition, and the admiration of generations of actors. To many young performers, he was not just another actor. He was someone who represented the highest level of the profession. So, when Michael Caine found himself preparing to work with him, it was natural that he felt pressure. Like many actors, Caine had watched Olivier's performances and wondered what it would be like to stand beside someone with such a powerful reputation. There is often a distance between how people imagine famous figures and who they really are. Some people expect great actors to be difficult, serious, or aware of their own importance. Caine may have wondered if Olivier would be intimidating because of his legendary status. But the reality was very different. From the beginning, Olivier made Caine feel comfortable. Instead of reminding everyone of his achievements, he treated him like a fellow actor. He welcomed him warmly and focused on the work rather than his own reputation. That was one of the first lessons Caine learned from him. True greatness does not require someone to constantly prove themselves. Olivier understood that younger actors already carried enough pressure. They were trying to perform well, learn their roles, and gain confidence. The last thing they needed was to feel judged by someone they admired. Instead of creating fear, Olivier created trust. He spoke to younger performers with respect and made them feel that their contribution mattered. His professionalism was clear, but so was his kindness. For Caine, this attitude was unforgettable. Olivier could have easily used his reputation to make others feel less experienced or less important. Instead, he did the opposite. He made people feel welcome. One of the biggest things Caine admired was Olivier's dedication to his craft. Despite already being one of the most respected actors in the world, Olivier never approached his work casually. He prepared carefully for every role. Every line mattered. Every scene deserved attention. He did not rely only on his talent or past success. He approached each project with the same seriousness and commitment. This had a major impact on Caine. Watching Olivier work showed him that experience does not mean someone can stop putting in effort. In fact, the greatest professionals often continue working the hardest because they respect what they do. Many people assume that actors with long careers eventually become comfortable and depend only on their reputation. Olivier showed Caine the opposite. Even after decades of success, he remained curious, focused, and willing to put in the work. Caine carried that lesson with him throughout his own career. He learned that talent might help someone get noticed, but dedication is what allows them to continue succeeding. Another side of Olivier that people did not always see was his sense of humor. Because of his serious reputation and his famous dramatic performances, many people imagined him as a very formal and intense person. However, Caine remembered a different side. Between takes, Olivier could be relaxed, funny, and full of dry humor. He enjoyed making people laugh and could surprise those around him with unexpected comments. The same man who could deliver a powerful dramatic performance in front of a camera could also make the crew smile moments earlier. Perhaps the greatest lesson was that success should not change how a person treats others. Olivier had every reason to act superior, yet he chose humility instead. That is why Caine remembered him as more than a great actor. He remembered him as someone who encouraged others instead of competing with them. Next, Caine remembers another Hollywood legend who surprised him by being completely different from the image everyone knew. John Huston. For Michael Caine, working with John Huston became one of the most important experiences of his career. Huston was not only a legendary filmmaker, but also someone who changed the way Caine viewed acting, storytelling, and the relationship between directors and actors. When Caine first had the opportunity to work with Huston, it was a significant moment. By that point, John Huston had already built a remarkable reputation in Hollywood. He had directed some of the most respected films in cinema history, including The Maltese Falcon, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and The African Queen. He was known as a filmmaker with a strong creative vision, a fearless personality, and a deep understanding of human behavior. For an actor like Caine, meeting someone with that level of experience could naturally feel intimidating. Huston was not just another director looking to make a film. He was someone whose name carried decades of success and respect throughout the industry. However, what Caine discovered was that Huston's reputation did not make him distant or difficult. Behind the famous name was a man who enjoyed working with actors and valued what they brought to a story. Their most famous collaboration came with the 1975 adventure film The Man Who Would Be King, where Caine starred alongside Sean Connery. The film was directed by Huston and became one of the most memorable projects of Caine's career. Working with two major figures like Huston and Connery could have created a tense environment, but Caine found the opposite. Huston created a calm and professional atmosphere on set. He knew exactly what he wanted, but he did not control every small detail. Instead of forcing actors to copy his exact vision, Huston trusted them. He allowed performers to understand their characters and bring their own ideas into the scenes. This freedom helped actors feel confident and gave the performances a natural quality. Caine admired that approach because it showed a director who respected the creative abilities of the people around him. Huston understood that filmmaking was a team effort. He had the final vision, but he also knew that actors needed space to contribute. One of the biggest lessons Caine learned from Huston was the importance of honesty in acting. Huston was not interested in performances that simply looked impressive. He wanted actors to find something real within their characters. For Huston, the goal was not about chasing perfection. It was about creating believable moments that audiences could connect with. He encouraged actors to focus on understanding their characters rather than trying too hard to impress people. This idea stayed with Caine throughout his own career. He learned that a great performance does not come from showing off. It comes from making the audience believe in the person on screen. Caine also admired Huston because he was much more than a filmmaker. He had lived an adventurous life filled with experiences outside of movies. He was a writer, a painter, a boxer in his younger years, and someone who explored many different interests. Because of that, conversations with Huston often went far beyond filmmaking. They could discuss life, travel, history, and personal experiences. Caine appreciated those conversations because they revealed Huston's curiosity and intelligence. Huston was someone who continued learning and exploring throughout his life. He did not seem limited to one area of interest, and that made him a fascinating person to spend time with. As they worked together, Caine and Huston developed a strong personal bond. Their relationship was built on mutual respect rather than simply professional admiration. Caine respected Huston's experience and creative mind, while Huston respected Caine's talent and commitment as an actor. One reason Caine valued Huston so much was his confidence. Huston was comfortable with his own abilities and did not need to constantly prove himself. He could make decisions, guide a production, and lead a team without creating unnecessary pressure. He also had a great sense of humor. Despite his serious reputation, Huston enjoyed making people laugh and keeping the atmosphere relaxed. That balance between professionalism and personality made him someone many actors enjoyed working with. For Caine, Huston's greatest strength was the way he treated actors. He did not see them as people who simply followed instructions. He saw them as creative partners who helped bring a story to life. The opportunity to work with Huston also had a lasting impact on Caine's career. The Man Who Would Be King became one of his most respected films and introduced him to new challenges as an actor. But Caine's next friendship came with a Hollywood icon whose public image was very different from the quiet man he discovered: John Wayne. For Michael Caine, meeting John Wayne was one of those moments that felt almost impossible to imagine when he was younger. Before they ever became friends, Caine had grown up watching Wayne on screen and seeing the impact he had on audiences around the world. John Wayne was not just a successful actor, he was one of the most recognizable figures in Hollywood history. His name, voice, and screen presence were known by millions of people. Through films like Stagecoach, The Searchers, and countless westerns, Wayne created an image that became closely connected with American cinema. To many people, he represented confidence, strength, and determination. His characters often walked into difficult situations without fear and stood firm when others backed away. Because of that powerful public image, meeting John Wayne could easily make anyone feel nervous. For Caine, Wayne seemed larger than life. He was someone he had watched for years, someone whose career had reached a level of fame that very few actors ever experience. Like many fans and younger performers, Caine probably expected the real John Wayne to be exactly like the person audiences saw on screen. But when Caine finally met him, he discovered something very different. The man behind the famous image was much quieter and more thoughtful than many people expected. John Wayne did not spend his time trying to prove he was tough or reminding people of his reputation. He was comfortable with who he was and did not need to perform when the cameras were turned off. That was one of the things Caine respected most about him. Wayne was not someone who needed to fill every silence. He was calm, reserved, and happy to simply sit and have a conversation. There was a confidence in the way he carried himself, but it did not come across as arrogance. He did not seem interested in impressing people because he already knew who he was. For Caine, that was refreshing. In an industry where many people become focused on their public image, Wayne appeared comfortable being himself. As their friendship developed, Caine found that their best conversations had very little to do with movies. This might surprise fans because both men built their careers around acting, but after spending decades in Hollywood, they had little interest in constantly discussing their work. Instead, they talked about things that mattered on a personal level. They spoke about family, growing older, and the unusual experience of living with fame. Both men understood that success could bring opportunities, but it could also change the way people viewed you. They could discuss the challenges of being recognized everywhere and the strange feeling of having a private life while being publicly known. Those conversations meant a lot to Caine because they were honest and personal. They were not interviews or public appearances. They were simply two experienced actors talking about life. Caine often appreciated these types of conversations more than discussions about films because they revealed the person behind the career. After years of answering questions about movies, awards, and performances, the things people truly remember are often the simple conversations they share with friends. One of the qualities Caine admired most about John Wayne was his authenticity. Wayne had become famous for playing strong, confident characters, but Caine believed he was not someone who created a fake personality to match his reputation. He did not appear to be acting when he was away from the camera. He did not need to create a carefully designed image. The confidence people saw on screen was also present in real life, but it came across in a much quieter way. Next, Caine reveals the final person on his list, someone whose energy and curiosity kept their friendship alive for decades. Shirley MacLaine. When Michael Caine spoke about the people he loved most in Hollywood, Shirley MacLaine was one of the names that stood out. Some people might have expected him to choose only British actors or people he had worked with most often, but Caine's list was never about where someone came from. It was about the people who remained important in his life. Shirley MacLaine earned her place because she was more than a talented actress.
This is just like television, only you can see much further.
She was someone Caine respected as a person, a friend, and someone who brought a unique energy into every conversation. Their friendship developed through their shared experiences in Hollywood. Both had spent decades working in the film industry, experiencing the challenges, successes, and changes that came with long careers. Over time, their professional connection became something much more personal. From the beginning, Caine noticed something different about Shirley. She had a natural ability to connect with people. She was curious, interested, and genuinely wanted to understand those around her. She did not simply wait for her turn to speak. She listened. That quality may seem simple, but Caine believed it was rare. Many people enjoy talking about themselves, especially in an industry where attention and recognition are so important. Shirley was different. She asked questions, paid attention to the answers, and showed real interest in other people's experiences. For Caine, that made conversations with her memorable. He appreciated that she did not treat people as just another person to meet or another name in Hollywood. She wanted to know who they were and what they thought. Her curiosity extended beyond people as well. Shirley MacLaine had always been someone who explored different ideas and experiences. She was interested in learning, discovering new things, and looking at life from different perspectives. Caine admired that she never seemed to lose that curiosity, even after achieving decades of success. Their conversations often lasted much longer than expected, because there was always something new to discuss. They could start by talking about films and acting, but the conversation would naturally move into other areas. They talked about books, travel, family, and their experiences growing older. They discussed the many changes they had witnessed throughout their careers and the lessons they had learned along the way. These conversations mattered to Caine because they went beyond their professions. While Hollywood brought them together, friendship was what kept them connected. They were not only two actors discussing their latest projects, they were two people sharing stories about life. For someone who had spent so many years surrounded by the entertainment industry, Caine valued friendships where he could simply be himself. With Shirley, there was no need to discuss awards, success, or fame all the time. They could talk about everyday experiences and personal thoughts. That was one of the reasons their friendship lasted so long. Another quality Caine admired about Shirley MacLaine was her ability to remain positive in an industry that could easily make people tired or disappointed. After decades in Hollywood, many performers become frustrated or lose their excitement for the work. Shirley never seemed to let that happen. She maintained her enthusiasm and continued to approach life with curiosity. She remained interested in learning, exploring new ideas, and finding reasons to enjoy each stage of her life. Caine respected this because staying optimistic after so many years in a competitive industry is not always easy. Hollywood can bring rejection, pressure, and constant changes, but Shirley managed to keep her sense of excitement. She continued looking forward instead of only focusing on the past. Even after achieving so much, she remained open to new experiences and new conversations. This attitude was one of the reasons Caine enjoyed spending time with her. She reminded the people around her that getting older did not mean losing interest in the world. It could also mean gaining more experiences and having more stories to share. Over many years, their friendship remained strong through different periods of their careers. They watched the entertainment industry change, saw new generations of actors arrive, and experienced their own careers move through different stages. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and join us as we uncover more incredible stories from the lives of Hollywood's biggest legends.